Guys, fixing your toilet is really easy, and honestly, you'll save a ton of money versus going with a plumber. This all-in-one set that you can get on Amazon, it will do literally any job that you need fixed on your toilet. If your toilet is leaking around the base, you probably need to actually replace the gasket, so we're going to replace absolutely everything on this toilet today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to remove the cover. You need to already have drained the toilet as well as remove the old hardware. I'm not going to review that in this video. It's easy to do. Just make sure you have a bucket to catch all the water. After everything's disconnected, you're going to need to remove these bolts. That is much easier to do with a 13 millimeter wrench. The 13 millimeter is kind of the universal wrench. Well, if every bolt in the world was 13 millimeter, but on every toilet, it is 13 millimeter. So that's the one that you're going to need. We're going to go ahead then, once this is off, and remove this gasket here. And then we're going to take a channel lock pliers and remove the larger nut around the, whatever this thing's called, flapper assembly, I guess. And we're going to replace it with this one. So they came with the set. This one actually is a really smart design. First remove the gasket, and then again, you're going to need to remove this nut as well. Set those things aside. I'm actually not going to use this handle because the old one matches the toilet. So that'll go in the trash. And then let's go and pick our next step. We're going to go ahead and measure here. The tube itself needs to be under. You can see an inch under where the actual lever hole is and where the valve is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and hacksaw that off. Some Florida man measuring, which means I didn't measure. I eyeballed it. All right, and then we're going to use the gasket itself. Replacing the screws is easy. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to go ahead and grab the new brass screws, and then it's going to be the rubber bushing first. That is going to go into the 2 screws in the toilet. Then we're going to go with the washer and then the thin nut. And then now those are in, all good. We're going to go ahead and hand tighten those up. You don't want to tighten these too tightly. Otherwise, you don't want to over tighten it or it'll mess up that gasket. Just have them pretty firm and then put it back on the toilet, obviously. All right, this part is going to be rubber bushing, then the washer, and then the nut. And then we're going to go ahead and tighten those. Again, don't go too tight, but it should be snug. Again, you don't want to over tighten these or over time that's going to leak. But you should see now that the toilet is pretty secure. The top should be secured to the bottom. Everything should look good here on the left and the right sides. And so you should see about that much gap between it. That's normal. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the rest of this. Now we're going to install the fill valve assembly, and that's easy to put into place. We need to make sure that the height is adjusted perfectly according to the diagram that's in the documentation. But again, you want this to be about level with the actual flush tube. Okay, now we need to hook up the actual tubing. So we're going to go ahead and push that on and then use this clamp. Now, if it sits too high, you will need to take it off and cut it, which is what I needed to do. So then I readjusted it, cut it, and now it's good to go. The actual, attach the flapper and make sure that it actually works. You are probably going to have to adjust the length on that chain. All right, and then rehook up the water, and we're going to actually then turn the water back on. And then pray that nothing leaks. And then everything, in my case, didn't leak. Everything looked good. But as long as you're careful throughout this whole process, it should be pretty straightforward. As it fills, it's going to stop filling the tank at some point if everything's working, and then you should be able to flush it just like normal as well. So if all of those steps went well, then your toilet should be ready to go. This whole process probably could have taken me 10 to 15 minutes if I wasn't filming. Honestly, it's not very hard to do. I would highly recommend this kit from Amazon. It works really well, and it saved us several $100s. So definitely recommend doing this yourself.